Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Fort Wayne Local Podcast. I'm your host, Jake McAfee. Today, a special guest is a friend of mine. He's Kyle Lindsay, the head coach of Bishop Luers football team. Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jake. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure watching your last few podcasts as well. I'm proud of you and what you're doing here locally now in Fort Wayne.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So I'm going to give people a quick background on you. So Kyle's had a lifetime of athletic achievement, being a leader, making those around him better. In high school, he led Luers to 2 state titles as the quarterback. I think a lot of people would say you modeled your game after me. If you were asking around, I think that's kind of the word on the street. Although I think Matt Millhouse might have carried those teams, but that's another conversation. So just kidding, man. So after playing baseball at the University of Dayton, he came back to Fort Wayne. He joined the Luers staff as an assistant in 2007 and took over the program in 2013. So going into his 8th year as head coach, I feel like right about at a time when everybody's hitting their stride and it's getting a little more routine, obviously, then this comes along. So I guess we'll jump right in. Do you guys plan on having a football season this year?
Oh, absolutely. Otherwise, we would have been wasting our time the last month of putting in work on the practice field, on the track, in the weight room. Kids have been tuning in with coaches through Zoom, through other, conference call type setups. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta prepare for your season. Obviously, things are a little different. We got off to a later start. Usually, when the school year ends, you're looking for that first Monday, or if it's Memorial Day, you're looking for that first Tuesday to get on the field and get the kids going. I think one thing that we see from a positive perspective is a lot of energy, a lot of excitement about the game. And I truly believe that if we're all in this together and take proper precautions, that we can make this work. Our emphasis for our kids is we have to get to the season. To get to the season, we have to take care of today. So, we have an optimistic approach to it, trying to just develop a positive mindset amongst the kids in this crazy world right now. And to their credit and to our coaching staff's credit, everybody's bought into that philosophy. And while we're still working out the details of, the no access to the locker room. Well, how are we going to keep kids socially distanced, and in what setting do they have their masks on? There's still some adapting on a lot of our parts, but I think the overall mindset is the kids are taking each day, the coaches are taking each day to do what we can so we can come back tomorrow. And with that said, this long-winded answer to your question, I do believe we're going to have a season, and if we can all, not just Bishop Luers, but the city of Fort Wayne, Northern Indiana, the state of Indiana, if we all buy into this mindset of taking care of today, doing what we can to protect each other's health, then I think we got a good shot at not just starting up, but having a season.
Yeah, kind of focused on the now and controlling what you have control over and not worrying about what you don't. So who's ultimately making this decision? Like, who do you get your information from as far as if things were to change? Like, whose call is this?
Oh boy, the Allen County Board of Health has been in constant contact throughout the summer and spring, in guiding and helping guide superintendents, principals, athletic directors, and making decisions that they deem would be safest for the kids and for the adults. I think one thing people forget is with school starting back up, there's a lot of adults that are in these schools as well. So, but yeah, the local Board of Health makes suggestions, and then ultimately it's up to superintendents, and for the Diocese of Fort Wayne, it's up to the bishop and our downtown offices to make that decision. And again, our local Department of Health will, they'll get their information from our state and national experts and we have the mentality, again, take it day by day. We can't control the decisions that are made above us.
Mm-hmm. I got you. All right. And then, so what's the protocol if you have a player that tests positive?
Okay, so we've already dealt with this summer. We had a player who we found out after he tested that he was contagious on a certain day of the week. I thought that was pretty remarkable. We were fortunate. I got to start from the beginning. We were fortunate that we had some parents that were really in tune, taking this serious, asking their kids questions, observing their kids' behaviors and their health. Kids showed no signs of COVID the week that we started practice, and then had a bit of a fever over the weekend, started to develop some symptoms over the weekend, had a fever the following Monday. So the parents kept them home, away from the kids, because we resumed practice. We knew nothing about it at the time. And then because the kid wasn't feeling better by the afternoon, they took him in to get tested, and they got the immediate result, which we're fortunate too. They got a result that evening saying that he had tested positive. So we got our first contact we got was from the parents, which I'm sure is not the case. It's not going to be the case every time a positive result pops up. But so then after that, the administration reached out to me and asked me to start piecing together who would have been in close contact. So we had for me, it was a lot of learning. I learned what close contact is. And close contact is within 6 feet for an extended period of time of 15 minutes or more. I think a lot of our initial thoughts were that close contact means, if I pass by somebody or if I'm just generally around somebody. But now I should say, this is with the exception of the obvious of hugging and kissing and all
Sure.
that,
Sure.
the exchange of body fluids. So there was that. So I began that night to start to trim down who he would have been in close contact with. And it actually wasn't until the next morning that I understood what close contact was, that I found out that he was actually limited to being contagious for one day. And what we found out was a small group of about 12, 14 kids. So I initially, when I went to bed that night, I thought I was going to be self-quarantining for 2 weeks. I mean, this was the first week. I had handled a bunch of paperwork. And again, learning what close contact meant. But I put together a list of, I think, probably half the coaching staff, 45 or so, 45 to 50 of our 75 kids that I thought we were shut down for 2 weeks. From the administrative standpoint, they were contacted by the local Board of Health with suggestions. I think they had devised an email or a letter for parents to understand what protocol was. We had the cleaning company come in that night. In hindsight, I think there's some learning from this on many ends. In hindsight, we probably could have resumed practices that week because this was a Monday we found out. With that said, it was obviously better to be safe than sorry in these times.
Of course.
So the athletic program, because it impacted more than just football, it shut down basketball for the summer. Volleyball and football were shut down for the week. So we had nothing going on in the building other than staff members who wanted to come in and work. And then, then that Tuesday, that happened on Monday. By Tuesday, we got it dwindled down to about 12 to 14 kids from a football standpoint. But again, since it impacted other sports, there were multiple, dozens of other kids that had to sit out for 2 weeks. And then I think the administration forwarded the letter on of what they should look for in their kids, what self-quarantining means. And then, so we got out the information. While it wasn't the fastest. I mean, within 24 hours, I can imagine as a parent, you're probably very nervous, very anxious. Is that going to impact you and your whole family? Do you get tested? There's so many questions going on.
Sure.
But I do know that we took it. We made sure that when we did communicate, that we got as many facts to people, that we protected the confidentiality of the kids and multiple programs that had tested positive. Now, Luers is a small community, so it didn't take long for some people to figure it out.
Yeah.
But again, so then we resumed the team minus the. Actually, it ended up being, because basketball is a small community, we have multi-sport athletes. We had 8 to 12 football/basketball players that were also self-quarantined. So it did impact us for, I think, 20 to 24 total kids that were in quarantine for 14 days. The rest of the team, the 50 others, resumed practices. So we were able to maintain some sense of normalcy in these times when we came back that following week. But I think as much as anything, learning from on our own end, as a head coach, learning from what my role is to not just help prevent the spread and obviously, policing, masking, and social distancing, but also from a broader perspective of learning, what to look for in our own kids and how to disseminate information, vital information, in an expedient manner to our families. I think there's no doubt that this is going to happen in the schools. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of learning on our end, not just mine, but as administrators, talking with them. There's things that we already look back after our first incident and say, hey, we could do this better. We could do that better. Let's try this. So as long as we're all in it together and learning, I think, even as parents, I think we can move forward and be optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, these are uncharted waters. I think it's pretty cool how you kind of kept the focus on like the families and keeping it in perspective. I like that. So during the season, is there a risk that you might have to like forfeit a game if you have enough people that need to quarantine, or how are you going to handle it mid-season? Is it kind of the same process?
From a very narrow standpoint, it's going to be the same process. From a broader perspective, if a kid contracts it, we're going to contact trace and we're going to find out who he was around. Now that's why it's important for us as coaches. We have to adapt our practice plans. We can't have whole team settings 4 times a week and then again on Friday night or Saturday morning 6 times a week. Truthfully, you just can't do it without risking your entire team not being able to play the next couple of weeks. With that said, if it's going to happen, I think, what I've come to understand is that there will be no technical forfeit. It would be a no decision or.
Okay.
Truthfully, I mean, it matters when you look at record books and statistics and all that, but in the broad spectrum of things, that's not really that big a deal. I think if you the fact of the matter is you got a positive test and you've been in that locker room and you've been on that field in close contact with each other all week, it's probably going to impact your entire program, and you're probably going to have at minimum, a couple weeks from playing, even practicing.
Yeah, man, that's tough. But that's interesting. I never even thought about that. So you're trying to keep the team segmented in drills and training and stuff like that, just to make sure that everyone's not together, spreading it all around. And then if it's possible that someone gets it and you can trace it back and you knew who he was near on what days, and then you might be able to like keep it moving forward and then just miss a group and then they come back. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's pretty much right on par with what's going on. We were fortunate that our diocese, and for those who don't know the diocese, think of it as our school district. They did get out some return to play plans early, as did the IHSAA, our governing body of sports here in the state of Indiana. So we had the proper guidance to at least at minimum make sure we had small groups of kids working together. And okay. Even so, we've had 3 groups coming in at different times for 90% of our practices this week. And amongst those 3 groups, then those groups usually are split up. We've had a freshman group, we've had a lineman group, which a lot of stuff they've done has been split in half, and we have a skill position, a 10 through 12 skill position group that comes in, and then they've been frequently broken down to 2, 3, 4 groups, depending on the day and depending on how many kids we had at practice. But the small grouping is important. It's been strongly recommended that we continue that through the season as much as we can. Now, obviously, you've played the game. You can't go into a Friday night well prepared if you don't get some kind of team practice in throughout the week. So you got to have your team sessions. You're 11 on 11, and you got to have kids there to be watching, to learning, and your substitutes to come in and get their work in if you're going to have a chance of competing on a Friday night. But within the span of the 6 days, Monday through Saturday, that you get the kids, you got to find ways to make sure that they are active and learning the game, but most importantly, that their health is at the top of everyone's mind, and that they're in smaller groups as much as possible.
That's wild, man. I guess coaching more than ever is going to be key. You mentioned the IHSAA. I just saw they announced no fans through the end of August. Have you heard anything else about that? Like, are there talks about extending that through the season, or is it kind of a wait and see approach?
I think the fans there's some strong recommendations from our state board of health, from our Allen County board. Our Allen County board of health recommended no fans. They recommended a limit to how many kids could be on a sideline. Ultimately, they don't make the decisions for the schools. So the SAC, athletic directors, with obvious advice and guidance from their principals, got together and decided that through Labor Day, we would not have fans in the stands, or through September 1st. So I think that impacts our first 3 weeks.
Okay.
Now, beyond that, I've heard different numbers, maybe 2 tickets per kid, 4 tickets per kid. What about, coaches' families? There's a lot of essential personnel that will be allowed to attend games when we start up. But, we're even trying to identify and define what essential personnel is for a football game. You have your officials, you have your scorekeepers, you've got your people, the administrators that have to make sure everything's running correctly. What you can't eliminate, like the people that broadcast. Or one thing without fans, and I'm glad I've seen Summit City Sports be very proactive about this, is that they want the Fort Wayne area to know, hey, we're going to have your games on our site, on all of our streams. Okay. So there will be opportunities for fans to watch games, but early on, it's going to be players. If anybody's been watching MLB, I think I'm an avid sports fan, obviously, a big Cubs fan. It's been pretty cool watching the league kind of adapt. Last night I was watching a game. Last few nights, I've seen the cardboard fans in the stands, and they've created I don't know if I wouldn't say a fundraiser, but they're finding ways to make money by you can buy a cardboard cutout of whoever, and they'll be plastered in the stands for X amount of dollars. I think, truthfully, what I'm most excited about with the current state of things is I think this is going to be an opportunity for players to really support each other. You know, a lot of times on Friday night, we all feel awful what's going on, how it impacts particularly our seniors. I remember a lot of times that, you know, you make play and for the first thing you can do is look up and see your parents in the stands, and did they see that? Are they yelling at my name? Or this is going to really force the kids to focus on each other. And that's why I brought up MLB in the first place. Is it's been really cool watching these teams and these individuals on these teams really vocally support each other. The focus is not on performing for the people in the stands. I mean, the purpose of sports is to perform for yourself, for your teammates to have success. So I hope as much as anything that not just here at Bishop Luers, but across the board, I hope that is the most positive thing to come from this, is that you get teenagers, while they're so impressionable, thinking about what's really important when they're playing sports. And that is, you know, competing and playing for the man or the woman next to you. You know, it's not competing and trying to show off with people in the stands. So I think this will really, and that's not the case for, obviously, probably not for the majority of kids. It does take an impact on your team. And when you score a touchdown, you see a touchdown scored, you're not going to see any pointing up into the stands and any of that. You're going to see celebration with their teammates. And that brings up another point. You know, how are we going to kind of have fun, encourage fun, but at the same time not have 70 kids or 60 kids on your sideline all hugging each other. Multiple, you know, but yeah, the no fans, it's unfortunate here to start off. I think we can definitely get some positive from our young kids and young adults because of it.
Yeah, no, first of all, that was spoken like a true coach. It's not about the stands. It's about executing on the field. I just want to point that out. But I also feel like it's a good life lesson for these kids. You know, you take the situations you're given and you make the most of it. I remember golfer Jack Nicklaus said he loved hearing players complain about the golf course. You know, this isn't fair. The greens aren't in good condition. He just loved it because he knew that everyone was playing the exact same course, but he already had a mental edge because he wasn't going to get caught up in that, and he was going to stay focused on what he was there to do. And that's kind of the message I'm hearing from you is, you know, there's a lot of things we can't control, but what we can is how we treat each other, how we bond, and how we execute. Which, speaking of that, are you noticing or are you anticipating any of the play or execution kind of suffering a little bit just because of lack of reps, lack of contact, lack of tackling, that type of thing?
I think without a doubt, you're not going to see as many teams in mid-season form, as we like to say, when you watch a team be really sharp week one. You know, as we preach as coaches and really in any occupation in life, the more you practice, the more your reps you get, the better you're going to be at something. So I think just naturally you'll see a slight decline just on average across the board. You know, what I told our staff and our kids is, hey, you know, it wasn't more than 15 years ago that we weren't allowed to put equipment on during the summer. That the only thing we did in the summer, and you could attest to this, is we lifted, we ran, and then the coaches would give us the balls if we wanted to stick around, throw the ball, or do some extra work. But we didn't do any skiing. We didn't touch that equipment until the first week of August. So I kind of reiterated that to our staff and to our kids. Like, look, we played some quality football 15, 20 years ago in these conditions, not in the midst of a pandemic, obviously. But the lack of true football time during the summer, you know, I think the game has gotten better because states have opened up what programs can do during the summer. Now you can put on the pads 12 times a summer. You can have competition days with other teams, other programs. You've got 7-on-7s. There's all kinds of lineman challenges. There's all kinds of things to do to get better as a program during the summer. So this really dials it back. It makes you focus on individual player development, getting in shape, getting kids used to the heat. That's as important as anything during the month of July. With the new this new summer. But maybe it's not as sharp early on. There will be teams that are going to be sharp. Don't kid yourself. Hopefully we're one of them, but there will definitely be teams that have maybe overcome those obstacles early on, and some teams that'll be a little behind the eight ball. So we're hoping that's not us, but if it is, the ultimate goal is to take each week at a time, and then ultimate goal is to hoist a championship trophy Thanksgiving weekend. So there's that to consider too.
For sure. I want to shift gears a little bit from topical more to youth football. I feel like it's changed. Really, all youth sports have changed so much since when we were young, but I feel like especially football. What do you recommend? Like now I'm hearing talk, my kids aren't quite the sports age yet, but I'm hearing that a lot of people are saying, if you want to be competitive, you kind of have to pick a sport young and stick with it. What's your thoughts on like going all in on football when they're young, or are you more of like a kind of try everything guy? Like what's your take on that?
Play as many sports that you enjoy while you can. I think I think there's this mindset that everybody thinks that their kid's going to get a free tuition to play, college football or college athletics, Division I athletics. That's just not the reality. There's more money out there for academics than there is athletics. So with that in mind, and then you got, college coaches themselves coming out and saying, we prefer multi-sport athletes. You have medical professionals who are telling parents that, specialization, particularly at a young age, before kids get into high school, it can be dangerous to the body, just the overuse of certain muscle groups. So, the science and the people who've been through the days of playing ball understand that, you're going to be a better athlete playing multiple sports. You're going to develop more, you're going to use more muscles. Even throwing a baseball is different from throwing a football. Swinging a bat, there's not a lot of similarities on the football field to compare with swinging a bat. Basketball, the acceleration and the quick twitch movements that are required to be competitive in the game of basketball. It's proven that playing multiple sports, particularly before high school, is the best route. Now, of course, you're going to have kids that, hey, I don't like any of these other sports but this sport.
Sure.
With it all, by all means, yes. I would still encourage you to find ways to develop some competitive nature and doing something else. But I get the high school kids that they play one sport. That's great. I would just encourage them to if it's one sport, take a break during the day, or not during the day, take a break during the year. Plan that accordingly. If you're going into high school and only going to play football or only going to play this sport, make sure you plan a break sometime in that year. In fact, when we finish football going into basketball, the basketball program's always been really good at accepting football players because it usually takes up half the roster, particularly Bishop Luers, letting them take a few days off the following week, or they say, hey, after your season, you need to report within a week, or you have 1 week off, report the following Monday. So I would obviously I'm very pro multi-sports. I do think even in high school, the more multi-sport athletes you got, the more, I think, as much as anything up here, we talked about the physical, the muscle groups and all that. The competitive spirit, I see a lot more competitive nature from kids who are bouncing from sport to sport than from one sport athletes. And that's just my perspective. I'm not claiming that I'm 100% right on it, but from my observations, kids that play multiple sports growing up and through high school are a heck of a lot more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, you're a head football coach, so I think we can take your word for it. So talking to the parents, what if you could? I know a lot of the mistakes you see come from parents. Like, if you could speak directly to the parents, how can they make the most of their children's experience playing sports? Like, whether it's mistakes they make, or if you just wanted to give them like a piece of advice, just talking directly to parents, what would you say to them about how to get the most out of their kids, just the experience, maybe not the performance per se, but just making the most of that time in their life?
Yeah, well, I think actually you kind of answered your own question. Not having the focus be on their production and their team wins, their son or daughter's batting average or free throw percentage, or how fast they ran on the track, how far they can kick the ball. The focus should be on, again, I should preface this, I am not a parent. I respect all of you who are. I would encourage you to just be supportive of your kid. He or she, they're going to have failures. They're going to come up short of your own expectations, of their expectations. Just being positive when they finish a tough practice and they're mad at, they're mad at their coach because they
I was gonna say mad at you.
Yeah. This is not a speech to say, hey, take it easy on your head coaches or your coaches, but being supportive of the program and the team concept, because I think if you have any kind of trust in your coaching staff, not just here at Bishop Luers, across the board, they're focused on developing the team. Yeah, we all want to win, and there's a focus on winning without a doubt, but particularly here at youth sports, high school sports, where it becomes less of a job as it can be in college. There has to be an emphasis, not just from the coaches, on teamwork, on sportsmanship, on handling adversity. There's so many life lessons to be learned from participating in sports. And if the focus can be on, hey, what kind of experience did you have on the field today? Oh, coach yelled at you. Well, what'd you do wrong? No, don't give me that. You didn't have your mouthpiece in? That's a rule. Yeah, sure. You don't like the rule. I don't like the rule, but you didn't have your mouthpiece in. You're on the football field. You know the rules. That's life. There's life lessons to be learned throughout the whole, from the time you enter sports, through the time you're done with it. And then ultimately, let the kids know, give it your all. Because you don't know when your sport, this game will be taken from you. There's people who would sell their family members if they could be out there on the field. I'm probably exaggerating a bit there. That just physically cannot, play the sport that you love to play. So with that in mind, why would you go out there and give anything less than 100%? Learning, here's another thing, learning how to balance multiple schedules. You go from school to the practice field, to going home, eating, showering, doing homework, waking up and doing again. There are routines and there are a lot of time demands that as adults in the, in the working force that we all know are just inevitable in a young person's life. Sports can help them, prepare for after school life. So, that's my response, or that's my suggestion to parents, is let the kids have fun, be supportive of them, help them develop as, as just good young people. And then, you're obviously, when you have your quarrels or your disagreements with the coach or coaching staff, finding ways to positively communicate. That's another thing. We talk about communication amongst our staff and amongst our team. Communication is so important. no matter what you're doing. Personal responsibility, accountability. We love talking about accountability. Hey, I made a mistake. I will learn from it and I will get better. Ultimately, that's going to help our team. Not, hey, I did not miss that tackle. I don't care what the film says. You know, they're just, that is tough. That is so tough. You remember being there, and that you make a mistake and you kind of feel like that, you let everybody down that mistake, and that's okay to have that feeling. But, you know, not trying to deflect blame on why you made that mistake. Accepting it and learning from it and moving on will ultimately make you better. It'll make your team better. So again, these are life lessons. I hope we can all relate what's going on in the athletic world to what goes on in the real world, because you know, for so many of us that are involved in coaching, so many that just admire coaches and look up to those that we've come to know and love as younger people. You know, there's a lot more than the X's and O's and the wins and losses.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. I feel like, you know, some of the best memories I have are from back in the day, you know, playing baseball, playing football, and I wish I could do it again. And you just want to try to, you know, you always hear that from older generations, you know, but appreciate it. But I feel like especially now with Corona, it's like, if there was ever a time to appreciate what you have, you know, It would be now. So one last thing, and then we can talk about the SAC and then kind of wrap up here. The fact of the matter is that some players are going to go on to college, and some maybe even go to the pros, and they do have the talent and they will make it. You know, you played in college, you played with people who went on to play in the NFL, Anthony Spencer, you coached a lot of talent that came through Luers. What would you have, you know, because you kind of referenced it becoming more of a job in college. What would you say to the guy or girl who does have the talent and is thinking like, I think college athletics is for me, and you think they have the support system behind them, or maybe they don't have, you know, supportive parents at home, either way. But what would you want to say to them just about preparing for college and preparing for college athletics?
If you're going to have a chance in college athletics, then you better be willing to learn everything I just talked about. My advice to parents: you better understand that it's more than just your ability. If you don't take care of your academics, you won't have a chance. If you're getting into trouble, if you're not coachable, you know, you're not going to have much of a chance. One of the first things I'm asked from college coaches is, what kind of kid is this? Does he respond well to criticism? Is he on practice on time and always prepared, or is he late and difficult to coach? You know, there's so many, not intangibles, I don't know if that's the word, there's so many other factors other than just your pure athletic ability to help a program out that college coaches are looking for. If you got, you know, if you got a bunch of stuff on social media that is just not appropriate for a kid or is illegal, you know what? You see daily, it seems like college scholarships are lost because of young people's social media. You know, ultimately, my suggestion would be in that regard, if you're doing what's right anyways, your social media, that shouldn't matter. But the reality is, you know, it is a factor. So, you know, be a good teammate, work hard, be accountable, be coachable, understand your academics are what's going to give you a chance at the next level. And quite frankly, you know, it's a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege for us to be able to play a sport. You should put your all into it. And that includes more than just what's going on the field, on the court, what have you.
I think that's super important. Like you said, the first thing they ask is, you know, are they coachable? And they talked about being punctual. Like those are two things that are very controllable. You know, whether you can jump, run, hit, you know, that all varies, but those are two things you can definitely do. All right, so shifting to the SAC and looking at your own squad, what do you think is a strength of you guys? What are you guys good at going into this season? You're excited to see, like, all right, this is where we're strong.
I would say overall skill depth, you know, in the secondary, at the receiver position, in the backfield, the offensive backfield, linebacker position, we're developing some depth there. I'd say I think the number one attribute to this team is kind of what I hit on is they're very coachable. They seem like they really enjoy playing with each other. We have a lot of young kids in the program and a very small senior class, but the senior class provides leadership daily. They have this off season. We had our best off season since I've been here. And it was unfortunate that the pandemic, you know, put a temporary halt to it. But, you know, what we learned that those first months of January through March was that, you know, this can be a group that they like to work. You know, we have a lot of sophomores and juniors that love the weight room. Right now, you know, the best comment and most consistent comment I'm hearing from coaches when we reflect on how did practice go today, how did it go this week, is that, hey, these kids, I had them do X amount of up downs because this kid walked to the end of the line. You know how it is. And they didn't complain. Not one person complained. You know, I've got my defensive coaches, you know, we had some, they're having their kids stick around and do push-ups and do extra sprint work. And they continuously tell me, hey, I'm not getting one complaint from this group of kids. You know, it's just, it makes you appreciate, you know, the type of kids that you have. So it's a compliment to their parents and the teachers and everybody that's been involved with life and helped raising them. But it's a more enjoyable experience for them personally, that they can come out to the field, they can work hard and not worry about complaining about what we're doing or who's on the field or not right now during this drill or this team session. You know, from a physical standpoint, we really, again, we like the depth. We've got, I think, I did count 25 sophomores, 27, 28 juniors, which is tremendous numbers for a 2A school. You know, I was just asked in the hallway right before this meeting, what are your numbers looking like? Have you seen a decline like some other programs are in your enrollment, in your numbers? I said, no, actually, we've seen the opposite. We've seen more kids come out than we have. We probably have 10 to 15 more kids at this point right now than we had the last couple years at this point. So, you know, we will continue to push them, and they'll continue to push themselves. And ultimately, I think, you know, once we develop, and for us, it's all about experience. We really believe we've got a lot of talent in the program right now. What we don't have a lot of are big linemen. We don't have a lot of linemen, period. But I do think that this is a more aggressive group than what we were just a year ago. And that's another thing. It's not focusing on 2019 and focusing on the 2020 nights. It's been a big, from a mental standpoint, a big positive for this group. You know, I got nobody really looking back or even bringing up what somebody did or did not do last year. It's all about personal growth each day, each week, getting better. And, you know, ultimately, I think this lineman group, while not as big as some years, I think it's going to be a pretty good group overall. They're very aggressive. They hit the weight room harder than anybody. You know, so a lot of our success is going to be dependent on, you know, how healthy we're going to be. But the competitive nature and competitive spirit of this group is something that we're all excited for.
That's great. I love it. I was expecting you to go more physical or like tactical, but I like that you kind of went with coachability. That's awesome. So who are a couple teams to watch in the SAC? Who are going to be some of the front runners?
I mean, first and foremost, you never start off who's going to win the SAC without first starting the conversation with Snyder. You know, they've proven year in, year out, while they don't always win it, they've proven that they're the front runner. To me, every year we go into a new year, it doesn't matter who has what coming back. And I got a lot of respect for Bishop Luers, for Homestead, for Carroll. and those are your four big ones here in school or in conference that people first look at. But I think it starts with Snyder. Snyder has set the bar for football play in the SAC, and for that matter, Northeast Indiana. Now, with that said, obviously you got Dwanger's had so much success. Homestead coming back from last year's SAC championship. They're going to be hungry. They got a really good group of seniors, from what I remember when I've been reading up on. There's so many great coaches around here and coaching staffs as well. That's not to be overlooked. Coach Dynan, he's done a heck of a job out at Carroll. Obviously, Coach Garrett at Dwanger. Those guys are Coach Zolman, Coach Tippmann. When you look at top tier programs, they also have top tier coaches, which we have a lot of respect for. So, but tell you what, they're not going to be a sleeper because if you consider them a sleeper, you're a sleeper. Northside, Northside High School, the Legends, they're going to be awfully tough. They bring back a lot of talent from last year. Coach Brevard has done a heck of a job the last few years building that program up, not just to win some games, but to ultimately be competitive. And right now they're in a situation with their roster coming back from last year. They're in a situation.
Do they have that same quarterback?
They have the quarterback back.
Okay.
Deuce Taylor's he's as good as anybody around. A lot of talent. They've got size. They've got that lines on both sides of the ball. So they're going to be a challenge. They're going to give everybody a run for their money. So don't sleep on the Legends. And then when you look at that, tell you, I think one of the biggest turnarounds in the last decade. Probably say the last decade for a program would be Concordia. Coach Manigault's another top-notch coach and his coaching staff, and Concordia has turned from almost, and I want to be respectful here, almost an annually.
Not good.
You mark them on your calendar. You're going to win that game. Most years. I think at Luers at one point we won the 24 of the first 25 matches or something ridiculous like that. Concordia Lutheran right now is they're well coached. They've got for a 3A school, they got a lot of kids in their program, and that's a tribute to their the Holy Cross, their feeder school program as well. But Coach Manigault, they've got a lot of leadership coming back. They've got a returning 3-year starter at quarterback, a 3-year starter. It will be a 3-year starter at running back. They've got some big linemen. They're very aggressive and fundamental on the defensive side of the ball. So that's another program that you shouldn't sleep on them either. It's the SAC. You shouldn't sleep on anybody.
No, I know. You got to be.
Coach Dorfer at Northrop. That's another program that I think is on the rise. He's done a heck of a job over there the last several years. Building up, he had to kind of build up his roster. When he first started, he wasn't getting a whole lot for a 6A school. He wasn't getting a whole lot of kids out. He's developed a culture there where kids are coming back out. They're highly, a lot more competitive on a week-by-week basis. They've gotten some big wins over the last few years, and that's another program that I can see potentially taking another step. So there's a lot of good football here in Indiana, and I don't mean to leave out any of your programs. So you can take your bulletin board material and do whatever you want with it. But props to all you SAC coaches.
No, I know. I kind of put you. I kind of put you on the spot there with that one, and it's funny you say Northside.
You can ask that every day. Every time media comes in, well, who's the front runner? What do you think? So.
Yeah. It's funny you say Northside because I watched that quarterback last year play Dwanger, and that dude is tough as nails. He took a pounding, but he put some balls in the money that got dropped, and he made some big plays. And like if you can get a little bit more around him and get a little bit more experience, it'll be tough. So, well, so the last question I like to ask everyone is, what's your favorite thing about living in Fort Wayne?
Oh, my favorite thing. That's tough. Well, I got a big family here in Fort Wayne. You know, I love my family, not just my immediate family. I got cousins, aunts, uncles, extended cousins. You know, a lot of, you know, my family, my support network growing up has not left, and there's, you know, there's good reason for that. They love it as well. I'm really proud of how much Fort Wayne has developed over the last few decades. You know, I can remember driving through downtown as a kid. Obviously, I'm not driving, but riding in the car with my mom or my dad, and noticing that downtown didn't seem like it was a place you wanted to be, truthfully. You know, and then Headwaters Park is created, and you saw a lot of. It just seemed like over the last, you know, probably 25 plus years, 30 years, that there's been a lot of just awesome growth in the downtown area. And, you know, you've obviously the city's expanded over that time, but I'm really, really happy to see the improvement in our downtown and surrounding areas, the pride that people take in making this a beautiful city. And it is, don't kid yourself, this is a beautiful city. And I'm really excited about what's going on along the you know, the riverfronts as well. You know, there's so many positive things. You know, the electric works. Hopefully, this electric works project gets itself figured out, and we can move forward with that. I think that would bring a lot of excitement. It is exciting to think about. But on top of that, you know, the number of jobs from you know, local residents, the opportunities there, you know, that's over my pay grade. But overall, I'm just happy to see that this is a community that is always looking to develop, looking to improve, looking not just to help current life, but to improve life for the future, for the, you know, our future generations. So, you know, I wouldn't want to live any other place. And, you know, that draw, the family, the constant improvement from our community, I think that's ultimately what kept me here in town. And I knew that from an early age. But it's even cooler as a grown man and understanding more of the complexities of you know, downtown development and you know, improving your city. Yeah, I appreciate it, and think Mayor Henry's done a heck of a job, and, you know, just the Fort Wayne citizens in general. So I think it's a community that looks out for each other and looks to improve for the future. So it's very commendable, and wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
I completely agree. That's what brought me back. So Kyle, that went way longer than I thought it would, but that was a lot of good stuff. And the whole point today is I wanted people to see, you know, I've known you a long time. I know you're a good guy, but I wanted to see, you know, whether it's the parents of your players or, you know, in the feeder schools that are eventually going to be playing for you. I wanted you to have the opportunity to kind of showcase the type of person you were and let people get to know you a little bit. So thanks for your time, and good luck this season.
Well, I appreciate it, Jake. Appreciate the platform. And if this can help people in any way, just have a different perspective, or maybe refocus their perspectives on high school sports, on youth sports. You know, if it can impact someone to reflect on, hey, maybe what he said about the downtown and the city itself, you know, maybe I need to reevaluate my thoughts on that. Whatever. Appreciate the time. I'm glad we could hook up like this. I know it's been a couple weeks in the making, but and again, I'm proud of you and you know, what you've been doing, and really, really happy to see you back here in town, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. We'll be in touch very soon. All right, everybody. We'll see you later.